back in the early 2010s, the indie scene started popping off online. A lot more coverage was being given to smaller creators, including at giantbomb.com, one of my haunts at the time that I would spend a lot of time on. Patrick Klepek specifically started covering indie games a whole lot for the site, and that's where I saw The Real Texas during a quick look that I believe he was at the helm of. After checking the game out, I thought it was very cool, and especially finding out that the creator, Calvin French, was from my city, from my hometown, and thus began an arc kind of where I started reaching out more and more to a bunch of creators and game devs from the local area, started going to the dev meets, even though I myself wasn't a dev, and just kind of starting making some meetings and meeting people in bars and having some drinks and chatting or whatever. It was a very social time. And one of the best parts of it was that I got to call a lot of these cool people that made a lot of cool things friends. And I guess I technically still am with a good portion of them, even though we don't talk really. But yeah, anyways, this is my talk. This is a second talk with Calvin because the first one actually got completely messed up and the recording was lost, and he was nice enough to do another one with me. So I think we make mention of it in the actual podcast itself. But yeah, enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back. Indie Talks on Pixel Response. I'm Paul, and with me this time is Nathan.
Oh, did I miss one?
I guess technically not.
Oh, okay.
I guess technically not. So we're trying this for a second time, talking to Mr. Calvin French, Kitty Lambda, creator of The Real Texas. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous, thank you. How are you guys?
I am freezing cold.
Oh, really?
What? Close your window. What are you doing?
Well, from the walk here, like from the bus stop,
Okay.
that wind is terrible today.
I guess I haven't been outside. But
You should probably keep it that way.
alright. I already missed the sun. It went down again. So
What time did you wake up?
4.
Jesus.
I know! I thought I fixed it, but it broke again. I felt real bad. But yeah.
You're just the worst with that stuff. You're so
I might as well
bad.
live in Alaska at some point.
And the weird thing is, when we were at PAX, you were up fine at like 7 or whatever we were doing.
Because there's stuff to do. There was things to jump into. This is just like, well, I could get up, or I could sleep.
Just wrap it around. Just wrap it around, man. Just let it get like later and later and later till it's a new day again.
Oh, fix it the wrong way. So
Yeah,
start
yeah.
waking up at 6, then 8, then 10. And just keep
Exactly.
migrating my schedule until I've lost a whole day.
Exactly. Gained one. Well, lost one, yes.
I don't know which will be easier at this point. I'm, whatever. Okay. Oh, we're all in the same city though, right? So we can all comment on the weather.
Yes.
So
Yeah, the weather is crap.
Today.
It's bad today. I mean, there's no snow falling, thank God for that. The streets are pretty clear. It's easy to walk around except for the areas that are nothing but ice. But for the most part, it's just a cold wind. So that's good.
Nice.
Yeah, everything else is running fine, but we're not here to talk about the weather.
Thankfully. That
Thankfully.
An amazingly terrible podcast.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about The Real Texas. Now, okay, so like I said before, Calvin and I had already done this, and the file got corrupt. You weren't here for it, though.
Yeah.
So
this will be better. This will be much better.
in theory, it will be better. But, yeah, I still unfortunately haven't had time to play The Real Texas more than, like, the little look I've done of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's alright.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
I have not. I have played other games on the website, but...
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I want to talk about Major Tom Rocket Driver.
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, I'd be fine talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever you guys want.
And The Legend of Alcana, I also thought was kind of bizarre. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a strange one. Yeah, I know.
I guess that one specifically, that was like the theme was already given to you, like, or it was part of some sort of larger manifesto-driven experiment.
Yeah, so there used to be a forum called Super Friendship Club, which
Okay.
was basically a game developers forum made because some of the other game developers forums developed a bit of a negative energy, I guess you could say. Not naming any names, certain forums seem to go through cycles of negativity. So anyways, this forum was always great and real positive, but they ran pageants, they called them, and basically, yeah, you'd have a theme and try and make a game, usually in a month. So
Okay.
this theme was Scum, which is a manifesto which stands for the Society for the Cutting Up of Men.
Okay.
It was by a really radical. I don't think you could really call her a feminist, but a very radical, ideologically radical woman who sort of believed in the eradication of all men.
So
She
a
was
bitch.
famous for shooting. She actually shot Andy Warhol.
Oh, okay.
She's infamous in that way. But anyways, it was sort of that, and yeah, if you read her manifesto, it's quite interesting. You know, it talks a lot of it's out there, obviously, but I don't remember how I stumbled on this story. But yeah, Elkanah, it's basically a actual real life Bible story,
Mhm.
which I think if you look at it really from a perspective of, gosh, what would it be like to be basically any of the women in this entire story? It's legitimately pretty crappy.
Well, like you're more like
So
property at that time, right? Like
yeah,
this is
and
his
so,
second wife, and if you can't have kids, your value in society is kind of questionable. And yeah, it was kind of weird to see a game address those things. And I'm just thinking, just Scum. It reminds me of the LucasArts adventure game engine, which obviously wasn't what that was going for, right?
no, totally different. But actually, that's interesting because it's kind of an adventure game style kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, it was a fun. Yeah, no, it was. I chose to take it from like almost like a legitimate. Well, no, like a legitimate, looking at feminist kind of issues, I guess. But most people took it more from the line of like looking at the crazy side of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the games made for that pageant were, but yeah, that's what that was from. Anyways, super interesting stuff. Like just an interesting basis for making games, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And Space Oddity obviously was the inspiration for Major Tom. And I just found it novel to have a rocket, like different stages of a rocket and trying to reach escape velocity as a mechanic. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I was happy with how that turned out. It's a little bit too random. The way the winds roll is pretty random. Just kind of just tilts your rocket around as you fly.
I got pretty late in it, and then yeah,
it gets hard. But it is kind of fun to see like the Saturn V just like embedded in the ground. See that far. It's like because when the rocket crashes, it just kind of like embeds in the ground, right? But anyways, I thought that was humorous. But yeah, so that's that was a Ludum Dare game, and I can't even remember what the theme was.
Oh, was that also kind of a mandated thematic thing given to you, or?
The Ludum Dare is a little different because it's a 48-hour competition.
Okay, like this sounds more like a game jam type mentality, but
yeah, this thing was really a game jam, but this is definitely a game jam. Ludum Dare. Well, I call them Ludum Dares, but apparently it's Ludum Dare. But yeah, no, I like them, but they're exhausting. I don't think I've done. Oh no, I did do one. That Creamla Zone game, that weird looking game. Yeah, I mean, like with any of those, they're made in like like a short time, so usually they're rough around the edges. But yeah, it was kind of a fun game to make as well. It has like a lot of voice acting. I don't know if it really makes sense in the end, but those kind of game jams I don't do very often because I actually find I get really stressed out, and I find that I just get exhausted doing them.
Okay.
So I try and do maybe one per year, and there's a few different types of jams. Ludum Dare is probably the oldest one, and yeah, it's just a 48-hour, and then everybody votes on what game they like the best. So for Ludum Dare, it's usually it has to be a one-person team, but for Global Game Jam, usually people work in teams of more than one person. Global Game Jam's fun because it's at a venue and it's in person. The Calgary one's always organized really well. I didn't do it this year, but I'll probably do it next year. So it's in January, I think.
Is that only the Global Game Jam specifically, or are there other ones happening around here?
No, I think the only one I'm aware of that actually takes place in Calgary is really the Global Game Jam.
Okay.
It's in January. Hopefully they'll do it this year. I should probably, I don't know, maybe the registration's already started because it's only a few months away, but it's fun. So that's that. But I find that the game jams are really quite tiring. I don't know, it's exhausting to work for 48 hours on something. So I just they're less and less appealing, I guess, as I get older.
What is the thought experiment behind them, really? Is it supposed to kind of have that stress of crunch time, so you have to make tough creative decisions to, we can't have this feature, we have to cut this feature, in a microcosm kind of thing? Or is it just...
Or is it more like a sketch pad or something?
Right, just briefly sketch out an idea, and we'll take a look at it, and have something to play.
I've always thought of it actually as in the former that you described. So I've always thought of it as in most valuable in that you learn what it takes to try and finish a game.
Mm-hmm.
But
something, quote, ships at the end of it, regardless of time, right? Yeah.
But a lot of people also take their prototypes and expand them. I never have done that.
Okay. So the real Texas was not the product of the Game Jam in any way. Okay.
But I know other people have. I think it depends what type of game you're into. For me, usually I want to tell a story with the game. So Game Jam, coming up with some interesting mechanic or something kind of cool like that, which a lot of people do, doesn't appeal to me that much, if that makes sense. So for instance, with a Game Jam game, I'm not usually thinking, what's a clever mechanic that I could make a quick, fun, almost casual type of game out of, but a lot of people really enjoy making those kind of games, and I think a game jam's a great prototyping opportunity for that.
See, that's kind of interesting because one of the other people we talked to so far has been Mango Down, and they go the opposite way where they one simple mechanic from an idea and they exploit everything they can out of that rather than think of any elaborate backstory or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. And their main thing was create a space so the player can imagine, fill in the blank. Kind of there's purposeful blanks in there.
The only reason they're there is to provide you a mechanic to play with. Everything else is up to you.
Yeah, and I totally respect people that come from that place. I usually come from a storytelling kind of a place. So I usually think of pretty early on. I think of sort of what kind of story I want to tell, and it's probably why. Yeah, my games aren't. If you play the real Texas, there's a lot of different elements in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely fun, but it's not a tightly honed sort of thing. There's a ton of different ways to interact with the environment and objects and stuff, but it all actually serves a purpose to tell a story, because I think when you have that, when you have an environment that you can interact with, your brain does a really good job of believing that it's a real thing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
right.
Think about the Legend of Zelda games. You think about, for instance, Link to the Past is a good example. The stuff people remember about that game is all the stuff that interacted. So they remember throwing pots, right? And on that is they definitely
you hit those chickens too many times.
Or the hook shot. Yeah.
But nobody remembers
thing already that far back. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Things about the dressers, the bed in that game. They had no role in the game because they didn't interact, but they didn't make any impression. So I think the more active you make something, the more it sort of draws people in. So it just in a way that something that looks really realistic can draw somebody in. Something that actually behaves in a realistic way also draws somebody in a more of a psychological sense. It's right. I mean, that's why people get Dwarf Fortress, or if you've played NetHack, those games have incredible amount of interactivity that you could do. Like, for instance, in NetHack, if you drop something into water, okay, you can like freeze the water, so you cast like some kind of ice spell. Then you can take a pickaxe, okay, and dig down through the ice and like recover your item, right? So it's like there's all kinds of stuff in NetHack that's so incredibly detailed in how it's been thought out, and things interact so well with each other that people that get past, say, learning curve with that game find it incredibly immersive, right? They get completely sucked into it. And so I would say I'd probably go for that angle more. Like, I'd rather have extra stuff that maybe doesn't ultimately serve a definite purpose. But what it does do in the aggregate is it just draws people in that much more.
Yeah, gotcha.
Like in Skyrim, right? There's all kinds of items you can pick up that do nothing.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up too. And like you know, you got a table covered with food and like cups and stuff, but you can't actually drink out of that cup. You know,
Right.
But you can sure pick it up.
It's like
Kind of
set decorated, but you can't actually interact with it in the way you would want to, which is kind of weird.
It's kind of weird. Then on the other hand, in a lot of games, that cup would be like a static part of the scenery that wouldn't even like move, right?
Wouldn't
Like there's
like
you wouldn't be able to move it. It would just be there. So it is cool that you can at least pick that stuff up as items, and some of that stuff I think you can sell. Or I know I spent a lot of time in Skyrim decorating my house with like stolen plates.
Like I kind of think back, like even just like a decade ago in first-person shooters and stuff. One of the first things I do in every game was just shoot at water and lights and stuff to see if it did anything. And if it didn't, I was immediately like, "This game's not good. Like, what are you doing?" Like, there's no like you can't even if you shoot at water, there should be at least ripples or something. What are you doing? Just like, no, we just didn't put that in there. Because why would you shoot at the wire? I was just like, because I want to, man. Yeah. There's pool balls in various games too that I remember you could shoot the pool balls, and that was cool. But
I'm definitely not one of those. I'm not a focused game designer. I'd rather have like, more stuff in. And just kind
so when you talk about kind of like creating a story, you mean more kind of like create a environment so people can have a story in there, or is there authored moments where like a dude just talks to you for a bit and like that kind of moments too?
Definitely, actually both interest me a lot, but so far what I have has been more where there's authored moments. So definitely the Real Texas is kind of it's non-linear, but at the same time there are story events that will happen for the most part.
Okay.
Say that authored things are like, you know, dude comes up to you and says his bit, and so the trick there then is kind of like figuring out what are those things that you are going to tell explicitly, and then what are you just going to kind of tell through the environment. If that makes sense, stuff that the player
like organically finds stuff, right?
No, I read this really interesting article once talking about how to design some areas in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, I've never played, probably because I recognize it's trouble for me, right? Like, I've always tried to stay away from Mamorpagas, but anyways.
Mamorpagas, yeah.
Mamorpagas.
That's probably a smart thing. I mean, for me, you can take that as
I can get sucked into like muds or mushes, which are like text-based, right?
Totally, yeah. So it's a really good thing you didn't get sucked into that.
Pretty much. Anyways, they were just talking about how when they designed enemies, they would always try and design a backstory just through the environment with them. So if there's an insectoid kind of enemy, and I'm sure people who actually play World of Warcraft are currently rolling their eyes, but you know, they would have like termite piles or whatever. So you'd try and just show what the life cycle of those enemies would be in a day, right? So those kind of things are ways of telling stories that aren't, like you say, they're not really authored moments, but they are kind of.
Well, it's not WoW, but just to briefly go back to Skyrim, like I enjoyed kind of seeing the Falmer, like those kind of like creepy underground dwellers, but then like through just kind of looking at their environment, you see their whole society, and through like the bones and things they're using as weapons. But then later you can also just find a book that'll explain why they are what they are, and it kind of recontextualized a lot of that stuff, and I kind of felt bad for them. But like no one pulled me aside at any moment in the game's narrative. It was just like, hey, we're gonna try to lay something heavy on you about the Falmer. It just kind of happened.
Yeah,
and I was happy that I was able to discover it.
And I
So-
think that, yeah, sorry.
Oh no, I just like we kind of ragged on Skyrim a bit for kind of having a lot of set decorating that didn't mean anything, but they do
Yeah.
some cool stuff too.
Oh no, actually, I like that. I find Skyrim pretty interactive. Yeah, it's true that you can't always do stuff like with the silverware, the cups and stuff. But I just like that you could actually collect it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you can at least touch it in
You can
some
touch
way.
it, and that's I think a lot of the kind of stuff that helps pull you in for Skyrim. Like I actually found Skyrim pretty interactive. I'm trying to think what would be like an example of a game that was really cool but not necessarily interactive in the same way. Like I guess Portal would be a great example of a place of a game where, well, Portal has a lot of really cool storytelling too. Actually, Portal is probably a good example of a game that does.
Well, like Valve kind of makes you feel like you organically found a way to go, but there was only really one way to go. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
All the
like
little
even in Half-Life and stuff too, it's like, oh man, I found it, and it's just like, yeah, it's linear. But
It is linear.
felt cool, didn't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say Portal's like an example. Actually, Portal's a great example because on the one hand, it has like the really refined mechanics, right, based on one simple idea that is just kind of developed throughout the whole game. But actually, the storytelling in Portal is definitely a really strong part, and they definitely do it more with those kind of contextual things that you just discover rather than those kind of moments where they stop and set you aside and tell you what's going on, which I don't even know if there are any of those moments in Portal. I guess when you stand in an elevator, you have to wait for a bit.
Right.
But
like Paul and I kind of had a discussion about how to end a game well. Like just specifically like in Portal 2, there's a moment where you it's been out for 2 years, but you see the moon and you know what to do. Right. And you do it yourself, and that is more satisfying than a game that ends with like a 10-minute cutscene.
Watching a cutscene, yeah.
Yeah, because specifically Assassin's Creed 3 ends with a cutscene. And really? I thought that was just kind of sad. Like, it's just like, what? Like, why not have it pay off with the mechanics and things and make me do a thing, and then, I don't know, like end with something interactive instead of something static like that.
Right.
But, yeah, in that way I thought Portal kind of does that successfully. I don't know what the ending of Real Texas entails. So
we'll have to play to find out.
Well, actually, I talked to you about that without spoiling anything. That's what I could tell you about Real Texas. So by the time I was finished the game, I was like incredibly tired, right?
Yeah.
And I gave it to a playtester to play, of course. And when they came back, they said, well, it's really good and stuff, but ending feels kind of sudden. So I looked, I'm like, well, I've just asked the player to put in like a heck of a lot, right, throughout the whole game. I mean, and then I looked at it, I'm like, you know what? I was just exhausted by the end that just needed to wrap it.
Yeah.
And so they delay the game by probably like 8 months or a year based on that. Not a year, but 8 months. Not just based on that, but in a large part because I was like, well, why release it with a disappointing ending after everything you've done? So I reworked the entire ending of the game based on that so that it wouldn't be disappointing. And like the other realities, most players won't reach the end of a particular game, right? It's pretty well known.
Yeah, I guess I've been hearing that anecdotally more and more. Like I have a considerable number of games on my shelves that I've never finished, but I think even then, I think I'm actually more than most players. I actually will see it through usually, which is weird to think about.
I definitely don't usually finish games, but as for those players that do finish it, you want to make sure that it's like a good payoff.
Yeah.
So long story short, it was interesting because when I looked at it, I realized I had really done something. Mostly just because I was exhausted. It's not exactly laziness, but it's, in the same way that I didn't put the effort in that was really required to make it good. In the end, it wasn't like a ton of extra work, and I'm extremely glad that I did it because I haven't had anybody tell me like that they felt ripped off by the end or anything like that. So that's great. That's what matters, right?
Yeah.
So, game's gonna come out when it's gonna come out. Sucks, then it really does suck. So I mean, you can patch it afterwards, but you still need it to be good when it comes out.
Absolutely, yeah.
But no, endings are another cool whole topic.
I guess, yeah, like, can you think of any noteworthy game endings? Like, specifically if we're talking about Westerns, I actually thought Red Dead Redemption had a pretty satisfying
I
conclusion.
never got to the end of Red Dead. I don't like
Okay.
open world games as much as I used to. I just find it boring. Like, why am I playing if there's no reason to? If I create the story, I don't want that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if that game holds up as well as it did, but at the time I was totally satisfied just riding around on a horse and all that business for like 40 hours. But,
Yeah.
Red looks really cool, but I haven't played it. It's Xbox only or something? Like, there's no PC?
It never came out on PC, which is legitimately disappointing.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of strange that never happened. Like, apparently there's even debate right now whether Grand Theft Auto 5 will come out on PC, which seems insane to me. But there's a petition, and there's a bunch of people getting really angry at the thought, which...
Especially since Rockstar are the only ones that do PC gaming very good anymore anyway.
Well, like, actually, maybe it was just the GTA 4 port was too beefy for computers at the time, but I heard that had some issues.
No, because, like, when you go into a Rockstar Games menu, you know, the video options and all that stuff you can tinker with, it'll actually give you a little notice about how much video memory and all that sort of thing you're using if you do this. So you can tinker...
I see that in relation to memory.
Yeah,
Right.
so you can tinker appropriately, and more people should be doing that, I think, when you have a AAA game that could be really taxing on most computers.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, as of now, it's console only, which is, it's kind of dumb. But good end, though, so stick it out through the bad textures and stuff. Enjoy. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other games with good endings. Like Rock Band is pretty good.
What?
You become a rock band.
Oh.
I guess.
So,
Guitar Hero, you become a hero of the guitar.
Don't you fight Satan or something? Like, that just gets silly.
Yeah, Devil Went Down to Georgia, Metal Edition.
I don't know. Like, it's a small list. Like, Nintendo was typically ending their games with just a big parade, which I kind of thought was great. Like, if you've ever played through some of their early stuff, it's just like, here's all the villains, and they're just marching and dancing around. That's
and the
fun.
Music's always fantastic.
Yeah. But it thematically, I don't know, it makes no sense, really.
I guess BioShock had a pretty good end, I think.
Oh, did it?
I'm trying to remember.
I actually really didn't like it. It ends with a boss battle.
Oh, right.
Just so generic.
The superhuman monster type battle.
Yeah, you fight Atlas all pimped out on...
Yeah, like if you didn't fight Atlas, I think that would have been a great ending. It just leaves you with this weird notion to ponder.
Okay.
If you hadn't, but yeah.
I like the old RPGs. Like Dragon Quest 1, you after you beat the game, it takes out all the monsters from everywhere, and of course, like, that's a game that's always very stressful, traveling from town to town because there's random battles and they're fairly frequent and funny. But they take all that out, and then you can just wander around, and every single NPC has its own text that it only shows you after you've beaten the game, and like, you can't save or anything after you beat the game. You basically just go back to the castle, and then they give you some kind of like story where you should go around and talk to people. But I thought that was pretty cool, especially
like,
for
text
like
in what way? Like, do they just talk to you a bit, or is there some sort of description? Is like a bestiary kind of thing, or
no? Like, every single NPC in every town will tell you something different when you go talk to them. So like, which isn't for an NES game, right? Like, if you think about it, like they wrote an alternate text for every single NPC. It's really, really cool. Final Fantasy VI was cool, but again, it was like pretty much just a big cutscene. But I like it kind of when they parade
like I was
all the
thinking, Square specifically just ends with big cutscene, which at the time was novel because it's like a video. This is so crazy. But
no, they do show you like all the characters that you've seen in the game, like how their stories resolve. Like, these characters go back to their town, these ones get married. Oh, the dwarves, they're building something silly. I'm thinking like the Super Nintendo Squaresoft games. But yeah, it's kind of a cool thing when there is a really rewarding ending. I mean, if you spend like 40 hours at something, you should get some really cool payoff.
I guess, the longer your game gets, the expectation for something satisfying, I don't know.
Hence Mass Effect 3.
I guess maybe, like, if it's compounded over 3 games, people get really, really high expectations as to what that's going to be like, and I don't know. I was not bothered by it, but a lot of people were.
I don't know what people were expecting, I guess, though, with that.
Yeah.
So,
Like, Calvin, did you play the Mass Effect games? Did you have any?
Still on my list to play.
Okay.
Start with the first one though, for sure. Like, I think I own them all, or at least I definitely own the first one, but never played it. Never.
Fair enough.
yeah, that's the series that you should start with the first, because it's really hard to go back after you play the second.
Yeah, and
Well,
also
they refine their gameplay after each iteration, so it's kind of weird to go back, but you don't have to for story. It's a unique case. Kind of like, I guess the Uncharted games too, they kind of polish things up each time. But you don't need the backstory, really.
Of Uncharted? No, it's essentially Tomb Raider.
Yeah, it's just high adventure.
You're going after this thing. Anything important to this story will be presented to you at the beginning of this game's story.
Uncharted always seems like a really theatrical kind of game, but seems like I haven't played any of them, but they're very they're pretty much really linear, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The more you go through them too, like the smoke, like just kind of the set piece stuff, kind of you see through it after a while, and you're just like, there's nothing else I can do here. Like the first time I played this truck chase was really exciting, but then you realize like they don't actually explode for a while, so you're not barely making it. The game is kind of softening everything. It seemed more exciting, but it's
But the draw for Uncharted is you're playing Indiana Jones with nice graphics, essentially.
It's like an interactive Indiana Jones movie, basically, which is fun, but it's not something you can infinitely go back to and find new things.
It's not an academic practice. Yeah.
It's going to play it the same way every single time.
Yeah.
Including those blue dudes at the end, which totally sucks. But
Yeah.
Uncharted 2, to 3, I think manages to find a way to do it too. They just kind of have.
I never played through 3.
Yeah. Like, you've basically played. I wish those were, I don't know, something deeper maybe. They were definitely fun at the time, 3 years ago when I played 2 for the first time.
They're essentially tech demos for what the PS3 can do when you develop specifically for the PS3's specifications.
Yeah. Uncharted games in general are.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they always looked really interesting. I played a Vita Uncharted game in, like, GameStop or whatever.
Yeah.
It seemed pretty cool, but it was like I played like the first area and it was like, grab here, shimmy across here.
In terms of the platforming stuff,
jump. It's like, oh, that thing fell down behind you. Whoa, you just made it. And it's like, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a little too transparent to me that thing just fell exactly as I, jumped past it. Like,
and over the course of like 3 games of that, like it gets sillier and sillier each time. It's like
they really jumped the shark, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like, that everything's kind of timed to be exciting every single time. You're just like, well, this is like the 4th time this game I've jumped and barely made it across a gorge, and then a dude grabbed me at the last second. Like, that's, at some point it's not intense anymore. For me, anyway, like, the person...
And like, that's a good kind of thing to talk about, because, like, that takes away from the excitement. I think your sort of greatest gaming moments, they're only created by the possibility that you fail. And so, if a level, like, there's this N64 game, Blast Core, where you have to destroy all these buildings, and there's so many, like, moments where you really legitimately do just get through by the skin of your teeth. Like, because
I remember having a horrible time controlling that game because it was like one of the first games I played on that system. So it was like analog control. I don't understand.
And every truck controlled way different in that game too, right? And some were like actually hard to use, but like the dump truck was like almost the most destructive. But like you had to like power slide into everything to destroy.
Yeah,
you had to like get up enough speed and so. No,
I remember I really liked the premise. Like, it was just like, this truck's gonna explode if it hits anything. So you need to destroy everything in its path, or else it'll blow up. And that's way worse than destroying some houses. So get to it. And you're just like, okay. But
it was like, part of the premise was that we have all these different vehicles, and one of them is a mech that can just like kick down any building. But what you should do is use this one that has like hydraulic pistons that come out of the side and just barely fits through. Like that was another thing. It's like or you should use this dune buggy that you need to jump and get a lot of air and then land on top of stuff and flatten it. So like I mean the vehicles were all really cool, but what I just want to say, like when you do like just scrape through, you just manage to get that building down before the truck hits it. That more exciting event, even though the cinematics aren't there. Like
right,
there's
like the graphics aren't there, the fidelity and everything, but
yeah, like and it doesn't.
It's
like,
all on you, so it's more intense because it's like entirely driven by your abilities. Yeah.
Right. Psychologically, you know that you actually did just scrape through, and so you look at when you talk about like interactivity or whatever. In my, it's like if you have this sort of cutscene where something dramatic happens, but you kind of always win. That's less immersive, even though it has that cinematic aspect to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really.
This has actually been an issue. I've like just recently Walking Dead wrapped up, and a lot of people are really talking about that game, but it has that issue for me where it's like it's basically a video, and you're watching a video, and it's going to play out this way no matter what you do, because there's no real gameplay investment. So
the only thing you decide is if it does it this way or this way.
Yeah, do you want to see this video with these variables or these variables? The basic thing that happens will never change. And you're just like, well, this isn't a video game then, is basically where I've come down on it, because like we're saying, like unless you actually have some role in determining what happens, there's no real tension there. It's just all within the universe of the game. I don't know. It doesn't bring the player into it in a way I found interesting.
People always think that it's strictly graphics or whatever that immerses people, but I think it's a lot more to do with like, does your brain believe that this is a real sort of world? So all those tiny little details, that maybe don't add anything to the core gameplay at all, but that help your brain, sort of like going back to link to the past,
or like associated
people remember
with reality. Okay.
Yeah, but they remember like throwing pots, but they also remember like, or even like any Zelda game, you always remember like they slicing grass, right? Like freaking, like every Zelda game.
They kind of incentivize you to do that just enough. Like it's like there might be rupees in there, I don't know, and then that lets you kind of just do weird stuff and experiment with how the world works.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Elder Scrolls to some extent does that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, going back to like say Skyrim, would Skyrim be more immersive if you could like chop down trees? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Right?
Actually, that's kind of why like it's kind of a dumb old game now, but like RuneScape, the online MMO, like they just have so many dumb mechanics in it where it's just like, dude, you can chop wood and then make a fire. So you can chop down trees in it, and you can cook pies and harvest wheat and then make, pizza crust. And those skills aren't actually fun. You're just kind of clicking through them, but they work. So at least they're there. And for some reason that made it a really interesting game. Like, I played that way too much, like 10 years ago. It's still online right now if people want to check it out, but I don't know. It's another giant time sink if it grabs you. But yeah.
Right. No, I also haven't played RuneScape, but I actually didn't know it was that cool. I always assumed RuneScape was pretty much like a Diablo type of game. It's really just kill stuff.
Yeah, like I mean it's a lot of just mousing through areas and stuff, but like that it has all this kind of other side things that you could do made it work for me, despite its obvious graphical limitations, and it's like really static in a lot of ways. Like it's running on Java stuff. So there's like no, like I guess there's music over it now, but when I was playing it 10 years ago, it was like the most bare bones thing ever, but it was still so much more interesting to me than a lot of other stuff out there.
Cool.
Just because of that. But yeah. Oh, is there any, like, I guess just, is there any games happening right now that are kind of grabbing your attention? Like that are, do you have time to play stuff that's going on? Like,
I've done a little bit better job playing games lately. I just finished playing Phantasmagoria, which is a game.
Okay.
It is super cool. It's my kind of game. Like, again, I'm mostly attracted to these games that are more based around telling a story, I guess, than strictly like a mechanic. So, Phantasmagoria, it's a game by my friend, basically Greg Banoff, but he's made quite a few games now, and he's still quite young by comparison, at least to me. But no, it's basically this game. It's an RPG, but definitely does things quite differently. Like, for instance, like there's no money in the game. There's like set number of items everywhere. It's got a real Earthbound vibe. Combat's really interesting. Enemies are really interesting, and it has really poignant kind of story to it. So yeah, super cool. Super cool game. And I played that all the way through. I actually streamed that on my Twitch. Also, I played a lot of. I've been playing a lot of Snapshot.
Yeah.
By Kyle Pulver, which is really cool, and it's.
Oh, about the robot, like the guy who made Offspring Fling. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We have played that.
He also made a game called Jotobots this year, which I haven't played yet. But no, Snapshot's really cool. It's not as much my kind of game, but it is awesome and it is amazing. Like, the graphics are all like HD pixel art, and you're just like, yeah, it's super lush, and the animation is really smooth, and I don't know, it's just really cool game. But what makes that enjoyable is actually there's like a really wide range of mechanics in play. Like, I assumed it would be one kind of thing, but it ended up being that he had like all these different ideas. Like, without spoiling too much, like, you can, some levels you take pictures of doors and then move doors like from here to here, but then you can go through the door, right?
Oh, and
so
where
there's like
you
all
position the
this
door.
weird.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's almost like, that just reminds me of Super Mario Brothers 2, where you could throw down that potion, and then it would create a door somewhere, and it'll kind of determine like what's behind it, just from how many coins you get and whatever. I don't know. That's kind of weird, but okay. I haven't played much of Snapshot. I haven't played the first few levels, but
yeah, definitely get into it if you like it, because it goes like much further than it seems like it'll go.
Then it initially lets you. Okay, because I was like, all right, it's a side-scrolling platformer with this mechanic. Okay, but if it goes in more interesting areas, that's definitely good to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely very thoroughly developed. Like, I think I'm third kind of chapter now, and it seems like every 3 levels there's a new idea introduced, and they're genuinely interesting, cool ideas. So
okay.
Yeah, those are the games I've been playing the most of, I guess.
Okay.
I do a bad job sometimes of actually like playing games. I just finished Analog A Hate Story by Christine Love, which is really good. I had played it earlier this year, like closer to when it came out, but I got sidetracked. I thought I was like only partway through, because like Steam tells you like the percentage you've completed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh gosh, well, I'm only like a third of the way through or something. But it turns out I was like right at the end. It's just that there's like multiple different ways of like getting through the game. So then the percentage is based on like how much you've actually seen.
Oh right, I had the demo of this on Steam. I didn't play through much of it, but it kind of like it has like a computer interface within the game, right? That's how you're interfacing with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of yeah.
One thing that it does, which is really really awesome, is so the themes of the game, like the game's themed around like, again, it's sort of a feminist theme, I guess. But it's basically, there's this just talking about like, are you powerless or are you an object because you're born as a woman, right? And in certain places and times that was true, and so that's part of the theme of the game. But what's cool, and this is not exactly a spoiler, but maybe just an insight, is that the game sets up a certain expectation, and one of the expectations is that you have this artificial intelligence helper, okay, which is female, and which you you go to for like commentary, and you read through all these different articles in the game. That's pretty much what the gameplay is reading through these articles. And so it sets up this expectation that in the same way that you can always like choose what article you read through, you can always talk to this basically AI, okay, this AI, and get the same text back, if that makes sense. So in other words, in the same way that you objectify like this file system, okay, you objectify the computerized AI, okay, because it seems like what the game mechanic will be, but it's not. And that's what makes the game really, really awesome, because that's also kind of an analogy for like, and it plays with this in really, really clever ways. And I don't spoiler to know that, but it might actually increase your enjoyment when you think about it, because it's like you realize that your inclination is to objectify, like to treat this computer AI as an object, and that folds into the themes of the story, which are basically like women as being treated as objects rather than agents. But it doesn't let you do that. But there's a number of places where you're like, what? Oh crap!
I'm just like, just looking at the title. Is this in any way directly related to Digital: A Love Story from a few years ago?
Yeah. It's the same woman that made it, and it's a follow.
Oh, geez. Okay, I should probably because I really like that. I played a couple years ago, and it's weird because this demo reminded me of that interface, because it's the same kind of thing. You're typing and looking through, like it's as though it's your computer, like dashboard or whatever. But
it's
desktop.
But what she does, which is so brilliant, is like she's able to create an expectation on your part of what you think you're supposed to do. And flip it on it so it's not. It doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to, and that all ties back to the fact that this computer AI is a person, not something that you can just use and manipulate.
Okay.
Exactly the theme of the game. So that to me is like just totally perfect example of like storytelling through games, right? Because you kind of create this to the game, and it just fits really, really well. So if you do play it, like there's tons of reading, right? So it's kind of like reading a novel. I mean, it is, I guess, a visual novel, but it's way more clever than you maybe would think at the start. And the atmosphere is great, and I really, really liked that.
Okay.
So again, it's just like that's my kind of game, right? Is like one that has this really kind of story element to it, or immersion. I loved Skyrim. I totally thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Really got into it. Those are sort of the games I've been playing.
Okay, and just I guess briefly, we've been kind of asking a bunch of people about this, and like your friend's game, Phantasmagoria, was on there. How do you feel about Greenlight? Just brief.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a sense of it yet? Like how that works as a system, or is that a good thing, bad thing?
I definitely think they're trying to do good with it, because they've always had this problem, I think, where like too many people submit to Steam, right? And also they kind of have this almost monopolized position on the market. But the downsides of Greenlight are kind of the downsides of Kickstarter as well, which is some
stuff.
Yeah, like sometimes what gets the most attention, it's based on like the ideas behind it, not necessarily the implementation. There are Greenlight that are added onto Steam. They're awesomely implemented and really impressive games. Like Guyana Sisters looks really cool, but like impressive in terms of just like the coding or whatever, however you want to look at it. Like it's impressive that they actually implemented those games because they look really awesome. But there's so many on there, like the concept of them, right?
Right,
and
those are have the appealing wrapper on it, but it's got a way more crazy, ambitious idea, perhaps. Yeah. Like that kind of stuff doesn't make a good impression just looking at it. Still might not pick it up, right?
So it just becomes, like for me, I definitely want to be on Steam, but like Greenlight's a really hard path to go through because maybe people aren't necessarily going to feel enthusiastic about the real Texas in the same way that they would about, like a dynamic world zombie game or something. So,
for example,
yeah.
No, and I actually don't mean Project Zomboid. I was
Yeah, I voted up on it too because it's just like I am tired of zombies, but that might work.
What's that zombie game? And I don't actually even know what it's about. But what I mean is like that type of game would appeal to a huge number of people, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, I have like mixed feelings on it. But the biggest problems that I see with it are just that there's not a good differentiation between games that are like actually ready to go and just pitches for ideas.
Yeah.
Right, like people can kind of successfully market something just by like spinning up some stuff, and it's just like we're nowhere near done. By the way, that was just everything we had. Yeah.
Same thing with Kickstarter, right? It's a real
like you can talk the talk, you can get that money.
Excellent pitch, and you get like $1 million, or even $1,000, or $25,000 from your Kickstarter.
Like, ooh, yeah, type business where it's just like, is this even real? I don't know, but we gave it a bunch of money, so hopefully. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's some cool stuff like Faster Than Light. Looks like actually my kind of game, but I haven't played it yet.
I played that. It's actually pretty awesome. Yeah.
And that got, I think, Kickstarted, and I think it got greenlit. So, I mean, would you not want that game? Absolutely, you would want that game. So it's kind of like, it works both ways. And you know what? Phantasmagoria got a Kickstarter because Greg was trying to raise some money to pay his musician and his artist. So he raised money that way and was able to pay for the last art to finish the game off. So that's super cool. I don't know. So it's kind of like, it's not, the way I feel is like I have limited energy to put into that kind of stuff. So would I do a Kickstarter? No, it's not for me. Greenlight, I hope the Real Texas gets on Steam, but if it gets on Steam, honestly, it's probably not going to get on Steam because it was greenlit, because the numbers just aren't there. Like, it's nowhere near even the top 100. It had like half the votes it would need to get into the top 100. And the thing is, those games in the top 100 are getting, like 20 times as many votes per day. So it's just not going to happen. But, well, it might happen if I poured tons and tons of energy into promoting it. It also might not happen if I pour tons and tons of energy into promoting it. So what I would rather do, which I did, which is exciting, is get it on like GOG, who are fabulous, Gamersgate, who are fabulous, and Desura, which is also just a fabulous service. And it's like, get it on those services, you make a little more money, keep your kind of business going, keep developing games, work on the new games. I'm on Greenlight. I'm doing kind of what I can do to try and get it on Steam for people. But if it's I got to put my time and effort where it's going to matter. And I'd rather spend time making games than
promoting.
Yeah,
than promoting something you've already wrapped
Absolutely.
up. Absolutely, so
yeah.
Rather off the proceeds of my game than like hire out a video production like setup or something. You know what I mean? Like, some of the Kickstarters are incredibly slick, right? So I mean, it's impressive in that sense, but that's how I feel. Honestly, it's kind of, I'm not down on either Greenlight or Kickstarter. Definitely not down on them, but I kind of view it like it's something somebody else does. It's not anything I really do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's just for the energy involved, right? Like.
Okay, so you'd rather be making games. What's something we could look forward to in the future if you can talk about anything you're working on now?
Well, I have like a lot of games coming out. Gosh, I haven't really announced enough of them, but I'll tell you, like, I'm thinking of doing kind of a follow-up for the Real Texas. Basically, having finished making a game, like the combat mechanics are pretty unique and I thought really cool, but at the same time, not that refined. So, you have like a new idea for game development, you build a game with it, and then as soon as you're done, you're like, yeah, I see where I should have done it a little differently, and where those ideas could show a little better if I kind of could do it over. So I'm gonna try and build actually a more combat focused sort of follow-up for the Real Texas, but be very, very similar, like in presentation and everything. But it wouldn't be like a sequel.
Right, and you would put an exploding truck in it.
Actually, that's not a bad idea at all.
So, okay, exploding truck. I'm going to expect to get some royalties from your next game, so we got that out in the air now. And where
What
can
is
people?
this like Blast Core? What do you mean?
I don't even know, man.
Okay.
Anyways, so that's one thing. I have some pretty good concepts for that, but I haven't actually started that. But I have like a game which it'll be released as a free kind of beta first, and then it will be eventually like a paid version, it will follow the development plan, at least for Minecraft. Like, in other words, try and get it out really early, but almost like too early than you would ever want to charge money for.
And then fix stuff based on people playing it and giving you ideas.
Until you feel like, yeah, it's something, and then sell it as a beta. But just keep developing it and developing it. And it is like also based on some of the core things that I think make Minecraft appealing, which is really just like a very malleable world. There's a lot of like direct clones of Minecraft where
like Xbox, the marketplace there, or whatever, the indie place. Don't they have tons of them?
It's not as bad anymore since Minecraft officially came out for Xbox.
Right.
But yes.
But for months there, it was just like, Block.
Oh, well, since Minecraft was even announced, like when the first screenshots or ideas of it came out, that the indie scene on Xbox Live was just ridiculous. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Well, the one mistake I think people have made with Minecraft is they've looked at it and they've gone, "Oh, it's voxels, right?"
Yeah.
There are quite a number of voxel games coming out which do look cool. Some of them look amazing, actually. If you look for some of these, like there was one just a few weeks ago. Guys got this like wickedly sophisticated, realistic looking voxel sort of Minecraft thing. You can't even believe how good it looks. But no, but I think what I'm looking at is I'm saying, well, definitely cool. But if I did voxels, I wouldn't do it as good as this guy who just did it 3 weeks ago. And like, it's technically way more sophisticated than I think I'd be able to pull off. And I wouldn't do it as good as Minecraft because also Minecraft has all of those same ideas. They've already been developed. So why make that game again?
Mm-hmm.
What's cool about Minecraft is, for me at least, what's appealing is the building aspect of it. So when I look at it, I'm like, oh man, I love looking at what people build. I love, this huge procedural world that you can explore and stuff. And so I've got something cooking that's basically, it definitely doesn't look like Minecraft, and it doesn't have any combat aspect of it at all. Like it has no survival aspect, but it's strictly about building and strictly about exploring. So that's a huge project that's been ongoing for a long time. I'm actually just reworking it now because I realize I need a little more technical sophistication than I've had. So I'm like upgrading it so it's using shaders and stuff. Basically, that's another game that's coming out. I've got a top secret project, which I'm not talking about. And I've got another project, which is kind of like a Lolo style of game.
Nice.
And that's the most developed game. So I haven't really announced it yet, but the game plays quite a bit like Lolo. So puzzle kind of areas, but more of an adventure element to it than Lolo, and definitely like a more interesting story than Lolo. Mm-hmm. Even Minecraft game, which I'm happy to call a Minecraft clone, it really won't look like Minecraft. But I'm definitely heavily inspired by Minecraft. It has a story angle to it. It has like a definite, specific story to it. So I always want that somehow in games. That's important to me.
Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty much what I've got cooking. So quite a few different sort of projects, but probably the Lolo style of game is the closest to being finished.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing it. And unfortunately, we're running out of time here with our chat. You're on the interwebs here.
Yeah, where can people dev blog right now?
Where can people reach you if they want to find out more about the Real Texas, what you do, or even just talk to you?
Yeah.
Or read about why Cloud Atlas is awesome. Because that's important. Because it was real good. So.
Did you like it? That's good.
Yeah, I thought it was really great. I have the book on the way too, so I can see what that's all about too. But yeah,
I'm afraid to even read the book now that I've seen the movie. But
yeah.
No. Like I've got my website, kittylambda.com. But Twitter's actually, I'm really active on Twitter. So I'm PsySal on Twitter, PSYSAL on Twitter, and yeah, I like interacting with people and talking to people on Twitter. I'm a hard guy to get on Skype or anything, but I am like Kitty Lambda on Skype, and I've got email. I'm Calvin at kittylambda.com. That kind of, it's all kind of linked in on my website. I try to be easy to get a hold of. And my game is The Real Texas at realtexasgame.com.
Right on. Well, thank you for taking time out talking to us again.
You're welcome.
Yep.
On GOG, Gamersgate, and Distro, it's like $8, $9 now. So it's good. It's a good deal.
That means you people have no excuse. Go buy it now.
I
You
just
don't
signed
think-
up for a GOG account. I've been meaning to for a while. Ultima 4 is free, dude. It's awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I know they even gave away Ultima 6 and Savage Empire and Martian Dreams. GOG's awesome. They have some gems, absolute gems.
Like The Real Texas.
Exactly.
Exactly.
In stores.
I have a snapshot on there. Yes, in stores now.
All right, so thank you again, and we will see you guys next time.